the problem is when you take a community or a town or wherever it may be,
Of course.
and you suddenly, over a short period of time, dramatically change the fabric of that society by transporting a very large number of people from a different community and putting them slap into a town and expecting everything to just go perfectly swimmingly. And that's not to denigrate any of the Haitian migrants there. I've not been there to see it for myself, nor is it to lend succor or support to the they eat cats and dogs story, which I happen to think has been unsubstantiated and actually should just be stopped unless there is hard evidence. But putting that aside, I do understand why people in Springfield probably have a lot of concerns about how dramatically the look and makeup of their society has changed. That doesn't make them racists. It just makes them people who have understandable concerns about the very fast changing nature of their town. We've seen it throughout the UK. You've seen it a lot in America. You see it a lot around Europe. And no one's really got a handle on how you do this when you have a lot of people moving around. You know, is it right to just take areas and suddenly dramatically change what they're like?
It's a crazy world, crazy world. Somebody's gotta have to save you. It's a crazy world. It's a crazy world. Somebody's gotta have to save you.
What do you think happens to these people? I don't mean specifically John Legend, but the reason it's interesting you mention him is you may have seen this week as we're having this whole fiasco in Springfield, Ohio, where apparently he's from. He was basically like, oh, of course they should take Haitians there. He happens to live in an $18 million mansion in Beverly Hills, where I'm pretty sure they've taken 0 Haitians. What do you think the psychology? I mean, you're around celebrities a lot and a lot of these people. What do you think is happening there? You think it's as simple as the cheap clicks, or is something else going on there?
I think it literally is as simple as the cheap clip. I saw what he did there. It's the classic piece of virtue signaling, this other scourge of our time, where he wants to attach his virtue to an issue, which actually he ought to be directly involved with. I would have admired it if he got on a plane, went back to Springfield, right, and actually tried to find out what the problem is there. And he probably would have found out pretty quickly that, like a lot of parts of the UK, the problem is when you take a community or a town or wherever it may be,
of course,
and you suddenly, over a short period of time, dramatically change the fabric of that society by transporting a very large number of people from a different community and putting them slap into a town and expecting everything to just go perfectly swimmingly. And that's not to denigrate any of the Haitian migrants there. I've not been there to see it for myself, nor is it to lend succor or support to the they eat cats and dogs story, which I happen to think has been unsubstantiated and actually should just be stopped unless there is hard evidence. But putting that aside, I do understand why people in Springfield probably have a lot of concerns about how dramatically the look and makeup of their society has changed. That doesn't make them racists. It just makes them people who have understandable concerns about the very fast changing nature of their town. We've seen it throughout the UK. You've seen it a lot in America. You see it a lot around Europe. And no one's really got a handle on how you do this when you have a lot of people moving around. You know, is it right to just take areas and suddenly dramatically change what they're like? And I think that's where the problem has been.
So what's your answer for that? Because I think more and more people are seeing it. I think from the American perspective, people are like, oh, we don't want to be like what the UK has become, or maybe more so what Sweden or Germany has become. Obviously, Tommy Robinson from the UK has been talking a lot about this for years. And the last time I was in London for Jordan Peterson's ARC conference about 8 months ago, I mean, I went by a Hamas rally. It was a Hamas rally. That's what it was. Mm-hmm. And I thought, man, if I get out of this car, I could be killed right now. I mean, that I would have never expected that in London. And yet here we are.
Well, look, things are nowhere near as bad as Tommy Robinson would like people to think. And I'm not a fan of Mr. Robinson's work. And I think he's slightly hoodwinked people in America, frankly. And I don't like the way he talks down our country. The UK actually has a remarkably good record of assimilating different nationalities into our country and having a very strong and vibrant immigration policy, as America historically has had. But if you look at the scale of what's happening on the southern border in America, if you look at the number of illegal migrants coming in on small boats, many of them drowning in the process, coming onto the shores of the south in the UK, and you look at our legal migration problem, well, we had, I think, net migration last year was something like 700,000 people. In other words, we're getting 700,000 coming in more than are leaving. A country like the UK of 7,000 people, million people, we cannot cope with that kind of level of influx of people, whoever they are. We just don't have the infrastructure. We have a creaking health system. The National Health Service is on its knees because people are living longer and they're requiring more treatment. So when the NHS, which was a famous health system lauded around the world, was created in the 50s, we only had a population of 50 million. We now have a population of nearly 70 million, and we're living on average 15 years longer. So you can see there the problem with our system. Same with education. Crime is pretty much out of control in certain parts of the country. I don't blame migration for a lot of these problems. I do blame the pressure just of a bigger, burgeoning population and people not thinking through how we're going to properly manage this.
So why do you think this is happening all throughout Europe and now here in the United States? Because if you ask the average American knows that America's a country of immigrants, as virtually all of us, our ancestors, are immigrants, usually legally. We're not a racist country. I know that's not the meme, but we're not. I don't think the UK is a racist country either. And yet no European nation, well, now I would say maybe Hungary and Poland are doing it a little bit differently. But why has it become so messy, do you think?
Well, because I think going back to the woke mind virus, anyone that speaks about immigration issues immediately gets branded a racist. It is the way that if you talk about issues like the trans debate of trans athletes competing in women's sport, which is obviously ludicrous and incredibly unfair and unequal, you get immediately accused of being transphobic. If you talk about any issues to do with, radical feminism, you're a sexist, and so on and so on and so on. You can rack up a lot of ists before you know it, as you and I know, if you dare to challenge a lot of this bullshit. But the truth is that as a society, everybody, I think, if you ask them to give an honest answer, would say, of course, we need to have strong border control. Of course, you need to know who's coming in and out of your country to make sure you're not bringing in undesirable people who shouldn't be there. And how do people who've gone through the legal process of becoming an American citizen or a UK citizen, how do they feel about so many people coming in illegally? I often think of them. I know people who've gone through a really long and quite tough process to do things the right way because they think that's the right thing to do. And yes, I absolutely believe that countries like ours, both of our countries, should have refugees and asylum seekers from war-torn countries. But I also know that both of our countries have had that particular generosity thrown in our faces way too often in recent years, with way too many people trying it on. Most of the people coming in illegally to the UK are not actually from war-torn countries. A lot of them are young economic male migrants who just want a better life, which is fine, but they should apply to do this legally like so many other people have done. And when, as a country, you allow people to do this with apparent indiscriminate ease and just arrive on a dinghy and come into the country without any paperwork or anything, then understandably, people who live there will be annoyed. And understandably, people who've come in the right way and done it properly will probably be even more annoyed. So no one is happy about this apart from the people coming in illegally and often risking their lives to do it, which in itself is dangerous. So we need better leadership. You've got to have a strong border to be a country. And it's not racist to say that, because if you lose control of borders, you see the mess you're seeing all over the world in so many countries.
If you're looking for more uncensored opinions from today's thought leaders, check out our media playlist. And if you want to watch full interviews on a variety of topics, watch our full episode playlist, all right over here. And to get notified of all future videos, be sure to subscribe and click the notification bell.